Hey, g'day everybody, it's Matt here from Matt Carves. Today I want to show you how you would approach carving something completely new that you haven't carved before. So you see an image on, say, Pinterest, say, let's take this bear for instance, and I will maybe save it, and then I will copy it to like a Word document or something like that. And really what we're doing here is we just want to get an image that we can use in the carving, so we will adjust the size of it, and then we will print it off, and you can adjust the size after you've printed it off too. I think most printers these days have a copy function that you can alter the size of the images. Okay, so we've actually transferred that image onto tracing paper. You don't necessarily have to do that, and then what you do is you transfer that image through carbon paper onto your piece of wood. So it's as simple as that. So when it comes to blocking out, I'm lucky enough to have a scroll saw, but for those people that don't have a scroll saw, you could cut it out by hand, or you could just use the Dremel with a carving bit and sort of like go up to the lines. Okay, so the next step is the first part in the carving is I'll decide what the highest points are. So I think that big belly is going to be a high point, and also the nose is going to be a high point on the bear. So I'll just mark that belly in, and I won't carve that at all. I'll just sort of round it off to that point. Okay, so you can see I've got a bear in the background. I carved that yesterday, and luckily for me I can use that as a reference now. But what I do if I'm carving something for the first time is I'll leave a lot of leeway, so I won't sort of like go right up to where I think that arm's going to be, but I'll just leave a little point there, and I'll gradually take everything back and assess things and look at them. And I'm gonna carve the back of the bear at the final part because I can sort of like concentrate on the front first and then work out how the back is gonna go. Okay, so you can see from this bear the nose there, and then the eye is on a different plane, and then we have like the arm on a different plane. So you want to think of these kind of things as gradually going down from the nose. And so I've just put in where the arm is going to be, kind of a rough estimate. Okay, so now I'm taking the ears back a little bit. You just got to kind of think of everything sort of like in steps, sort of going backwards. So then I'm going to make the nostril kind of mouth area stand out by carving the face kind of that surrounds it back a little bit. So you can sort of see a little bit of a profile there. Now I'm actually going to go and put in some details, so then I can work back into it, producing details as I go along. And I often do this where I sort of like concentrate on one area to make it kind of look good, and so I then can sort of like go back into the carving and have everything related back to that one thing, because the mouth and the nose are probably the most predominant kind of sort of like iconic part of the bear. Okay, so I use this Kutzall burr quite a bit for details, and it's really good. It takes a lot of material off. It's the fine taper burr, and you can see I'm just readjusting the sort of like the shape of everything and just sort of rounding off those edges with it. Got to be very careful with it that you don't take too much off. So I'm sort of like looking at the other bear, seeing what's sort of like different to it. I might sort of like not make it exactly the same. No, carving is exactly the same. It's sort of they always turn out differently. And so I'm just readjusting that mouth so it's a little bit more defined. Now I'm going in with a diamond burr, and this is sort of just to smooth things out in the mouth, and sort of like it's a bit easier to control the diamond burrs. You just want to take off a little bit, especially on these real small carvings. And I'm using the pointed burr to get sort of like really fine lines in there. You could use that mushroom burr as well. That's a good option for that, but I just sort of had this one handy, so I thought I was sort of like trying to get those. I'm trying to make it like, you know, the smiling bear. You don't want that angry bear on the left. You want the smiling bear, the cute kind of bear. So I'm just putting in a couple of little dots there to indicate where the eyes are going to go. So if I put them in the wrong place, I'll just change them. But that looks pretty good actually. So then I just go in with slightly sideways, so the eyes look like they're kind of squinting, because the rest of the face, we kind of imagine when the bear is smiling, it's all going to wrinkle up and the eyes are going to squint down. Okay, so just recently I took a trip up to Whakatane, which is my hometown where I grew up. It's in the North Island, so it's a lot warmer than down here in the South Island. It's a beautiful little town, well known for its fishing for marlin and all of those kind of big kind of fishes. That's the harbour there. And my father does a lot of carving as well. He's carved into stone there with hand chisels and or hand tools with these carvings. I believe that is Oamaru stone, I could be wrong, but it is a soft kind of stone, whatever it is. And my mum is also a very good weaver. She weaves quite a bit, and she's been in a recent exhibition in the museum, and that's the dog Jazz. He's a very cute dog. And there's my father's butterflies. I think I've shown you those before. Some of them are made out of spalted wood, so you get those beautiful lines in there. And that's Whakatane. Okay, so I find it really easy once you've sort of got the face in. You can sort of like relate everything to the face in a sort of like a scale kind of aspect. So I'll trim down the body and make it a little bit curvy. I've sort of readjusted the sort of the weight of the stomach. You could see I was putting in a circle there, so I wanted to lower the high point a little bit so it sort of looks like the weight of the bear is a little bit lower. And I'm using the inverted cone burr to make those adjustments. And you'll notice when I'm carving a lot of the time, I'm just approaching things and I use a very light touch, especially on these small carvings. You can't approach them that aggressively. Okay, so I'm going to put the line in for the bear's arm. So I want to make this line defined, so I will need a really accurate line. So I'm going to use that mushroom burr, or you could use that sort of pointed diamond burr as well. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how the front of the bear looks. So I've sort of like roughly drawn in where the back of the bear is going to be. So I've left enough room, so I've got a little bit of wiggle room on where I can carve to. And what I'll do is I'll just sort of like go in and carve the back, and I'll just keep on making readjustments and looking at the bear and just see if it looks right, because when you're carving this for the first time and you only have a front view, you've just got to kind of like go at it gradually and see what it looks like. That's way too wide on that arm, so I'm going to go thinner on it. So as a reference point, if you don't have anything to go by, I would probably think of how my own arm would look if I was hanging up, so that shoulder joint and where the head would sit towards that arm, and just have that in the back of my mind sort of when I'm carving. Okay, so one of the great things about this bear is that it's quite portly, so we haven't got a lot of muscle definition, so we can make things kind of quite flowing. We don't have to worry about like muscles and all of that kind of stuff, so one thing can flow into the other. Just looking at the profile behind the head, I kind of think there's a little bit too much wood there, so I kind of use my thumb as a sort of like indicator on how much I want to take off, so it kind of looks like about that much. So I'll do that, I'll take that little bit out, and then I'll have another look. It's looking pretty good, maybe a tiny little bit more out. Okay, so it's back to that tiny little mushroom diamond burr, and I'm just putting in sort of like little details like the claws on the feet and the arms. And now I'm using the ball diamond burr just to put in those indentations in the ears, just sort of like working on those sort of like small intricate details. I also often go in with a cutter burr just to take out some major kind of like scratches on there, and then I will move to a diamond burr, and then I will usually use a little bit of hand sandpaper on it to get those bigger parts. Okay, for something this size I spend probably about 5 minutes sanding, and a little bit of shaping going on there with that diamond burr as well. That's quite a nice diamond burr, really nice shape, getting those little areas there around the face. And once I'm happy with the finish, I usually just cover it with beeswax, especially with this really nice wood. That's Australian blackwood. It's a beautiful wood, look at that grain. Okay, so don't forget to hit the like button or the subscribe button. It's all free and just helps me to support the channel and keep things moving on. See you, little bear. Bye bye.